Good day, this is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Update and crystal clear weather. I wanted to do a quick update on the snow potential for overnight tonight and tomorrow morning, really more tomorrow morning. Take a look at what the latest data says, and then I'll kind of give you my thoughts on the thing. I'm going to show you two different radar loops, and then a couple of radar stills, and then we'll go over what the data is showing for snowfall output. The loop that's going right now is the European model. It's keeping things predominantly rain tomorrow morning. This would probably be in the 7 p.m. today through about 10 a.m. tomorrow time frame. So we'll see rainfall start to move in here late this afternoon or during the evening, and it should predominantly be rainfall overnight. You can see that toward the end of the loop, you see some shades of purple pop up in there where there's some mixing going on. This is, again, the Europeans' take on things. So it's showing some cold air making it into the system, but not a lot. This loop is from the NAM 3K. It's a little more aggressive with the cold air getting in. This loop runs from about 10 p.m. tonight through about 10 a.m. tomorrow, and it brings the low pressure a little bit closer to us. At the very beginning of the loop, you can kind of see the L in the bottom right-hand corner, and that's the low pressure tracking off into Ohio, and it begins to mix snow in late tonight, really, again, about 10 or 11 p.m. through about 8 to 10 a.m. tomorrow. And again, it's a little more aggressive with the amount of snowfall that works into this thing. It becomes predominantly snow in the overnight hours into the morning. So again, there's two opposite kind of views. One, again, the European doesn't really mix much in the way of cold or in wintry precipitation. The NAM 3K does. And the models all vary, but most of the models want to mix precipitation in, or mix some snow in for a longer period than what the European does. I didn't include it in this, but the Canadian actually is very much in line with what the European has, and the Canadian tends to be pretty bullish on snow. So here's just a still from the NAM 3K at 6 a.m. tomorrow. You can see it's got pretty widespread snow across much of the kind of a southwest to northeast axis, but predominantly from about Bloomington to Fort Wayne, it's got a decent axis of snow. Again, that's the NAM 3K kind of at its peak. Here's the GFS kind of at its peak also, and it's a very similar axis as the NAM 3K. Of course, the GFS is lower resolution, so you get a lot more wide and smoothed out version of it, but it's got a very similar axis to what the NAM 3K has. Here's a still of the European kind of at its peak, and again, you can see the low pressure over here on this right side of the screen is way over in West Virginia, whereas the other models are bringing it a little more flat into the or a little more steep, I'm sorry, and going into Ohio instead of West Virginia. So the flatter track would not promote pulling as much cold air in from the northeast as what these other models are doing. So model output on snowfall. This is the high-res Canadian. It's got, as you can see, not a whole lot of anything, maybe just some flakes flying, and that's about it. Here's the, sorry about that, here's the HRRR model. It is putting down an axis basically from Indianapolis up through Fort Wayne of about 1 to 2 inches of snow. Again, I didn't show the simulated radar on it, but this is just what its snowfall output is. And again, this is the HRRR. Here's what the NAM 3K puts down. It actually has the heavier axis of snow farther west, going from maybe Crawfordsville up through maybe just northwest of Fort Wayne. It still puts down a dusting to maybe an inch of snow here in Madison County, and with some heavier snow back again from Crawfordsville through Kokomo up to maybe Fort Wayne and Angola. And here's the European. Much like the Canadian, it really doesn't want much to do with anything. Maybe some flakes to a dusting here or there, but that's really all that it wants anything to do with all this with this system. So with all of this said, my thought at this point, and I'll update you if it changes at all as the system kind of progresses, but my thought is that in the morning we may be looking at radar, we may be seeing a lot of snow coverage on the radar, but the air temperature is going to be pretty warm. It's going to be in the mid to upper 30s. The ground temperatures have gotten pretty warm. And again, it's probably in the 30s, maybe close to freezing. So if it snows hard enough, it will be able to cover. That's going to be the key, is how hard does it snow? Can it snow hard enough to overcome melting? If it does, then it can accumulate pretty quickly. If it doesn't, if it's over a long period of time, which even the NAM3K kind of has, there's a long period of snow and or mixing. And so if it's over a long period, then it's really going to have a hard time accumulating because it'll be able to melt. But if we get a burst where it snows pretty hard over a short period of time, then we could get some accumulation. So my thought for days has been that we're going to be looking at a dusting to maybe an inch of snow, and that's really kind of where I'm going to stay for now. Given the way the storm is tracking, I think it's kind of in between where the European and the NAM3K and other American data is as far as the track of the low. As I mentioned in my midnight video last night, one thing about it is this: all of these scenarios are depending on this storm pulling cold air in from the northeast, and that is a good direction to supply some cold air. It's also a good direction to supply some dry air, so it can be kind of a double-edged sword there. So we'll take a look at how things are, play out in the morning, and I'll update you if needed. I may update you later this evening if I see anything different. But for right now, I really just kind of let me see if there are any of these scenarios back here that look right to me. Looking at the HRRR, overall, I think the swath is right, but I think these amounts are about twice, what we would probably expect. Again, I think, for Madison County, a dusting to maybe an inch, and the better chances for accumulation will be farther north, up around Elwood, Summitville, Alexandria, Rigdon, Leisure. Those areas will have the best chance. Basically, I'd say north of Anderson is your best chance of reaching an inch, maybe a little more if it snows hard enough. So I think is what the HRRR has is going to be a heaviest case scenario where it actually does develop a boundary and really dump some heavy, some snow really fast. But overall, I think this, again, the swath is right, but I think the snowfall amounts are going to be, more in the dusting to an inch around Madison County. And then as you get farther up toward Marion to Fort Wayne, then maybe you could see an inch or two, but even that's kind of questionable. So this is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. I've run this a lot longer than I had planned on, but I just wanted to update you. It's going to be a little afternoon before you get this, so everybody have a great afternoon, and again, I will update you if anything changes.